They're going to be experiencing these amazing experts from Central and South America, which you and I have seen this week, that can really speak about the consumer base, how to tap them. And you think about the U.S. market being over 60 million people and Hispanic, this is a great market to tap into.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. And in this week's episode, we've got Renny Harlin, director of The Strangers Chapter 2, joining us for a quick chat about this movie coming out to a theater near you this weekend. And following that, I am joined by Rolando Rodriguez, managing partner over at Luma 4D, and we will be recapping the entirety of CineLATAM in its inaugural edition, and the event that took place in Coral Gables, Florida last week. Rolando and I sharing our highlights from a very, very busy week here in the theatrical exhibition convention schedule. But before we get there, we've got my colleagues Chad Kennerk and Pahle from Box Office Pro joining us once again. So let's start this episode the way we always do. Chad, you went to the movies last week. What did you catch?
Well, first I have to give a big shout out to Fathom Entertainment and their big screen classic series. You know I'm a huge classic movie guy, and I went with my family to see The Sound of Music, which they re-released. It's a film that I've seen a lot, but it's really glorious to see it on the big screen. I'd forgotten how much the location work in that, how stunning it is, and how good everyone is.
It's a wonderful film to see in the big screen. I think I've mentioned this 15 times since we announced the release of that title. My 2-year-old loves songs from that musical, and we listen to them quite a bit. In another universe, I'd probably open up the podcast with a clip of her singing Do Re Mi, but I don't think we'd have too many listeners after that. But I'm glad you caught that. A word of advice to folks catching any Fathom screening at your local AMC. We've become used to showing up to AMC 20 to 25 minutes after the announced showtime, as per their own instructions on their app, because, you know, sometimes you want to go there, watch a couple of trailers and just the feature rather than sit through the entire pre-show. Chad, show up on time for the Fathom ones.
Yes, you don't want to miss the intros on those from Leonard Maltin.
Shorter pre-show on the Fathom Entertainment events over at AMC. It's good to know that. Well, I'm glad you were able to take part of that anniversary screening of Sound of Music, but you also caught up with one of the horror titles that opened last weekend.
Yes. So I saw Him, which has been garnering a lot of critical hate, I would say. I think you mentioned this before we recorded. I think it's spot on. If you put Jordan Peele's name on there, there's some expectations that come with that name.
Yeah.
And I also think with it being a high concept too, like football player makes a pact with the devil to be the GOAT. You know, you got to deliver on that. And I think that's where folks went into that with really high expectations, perhaps.
There's a Twilight Zone version of this movie that the guy just turns into an actual goat. That would be the 1965 CBS version of this, which might have made it a different movie altogether. C- cinema score, not great. And I think that speaks to that expectation that Jordan Peele's name in any capacity brings to a project. Unfortunate, but you know, with these things, let the initial reaction subside. We'll see how audiences think of this 2-3 years down the line. On my end, I've just been catching up on all of the screenings so far at the New York Film Festival. I got to see 3 movies on that festival slate, and I also caught up with the CineLATAM screening of Warner Brothers' upcoming One Battle After Another, the P.T. Anderson film. Signed an NDA, but that embargo is lifted for everybody else, so we'll be able to talk about that and our reactions to it shortly. On the New York Film Festival side, I have to tell you, man, a really strong slate once again in the all-star game of film festivals. We had No Other Choice from South Korean director Park Chan-wook. In a Korean movie, you know it's going to be a hybrid of genres. You're going to get a little bit of everything and a lot of very relevant social commentary in this, let's say, unemployment drama epic with both violent and comic elements to it. If you want to call it a spiritual successor to Parasite, you could. I think that's cheapening a little bit of this film. I think it definitely stands on its own and is ultimately a very different type of film. But I very much enjoyed that from the New York Film Festival side. I believe Neon has that, if I'm not mistaken, on the distribution calendar for later on, late platform release in 2025. with a wider expansion in the early months of 2026. I also caught Clever Mendonça Filho's The Secret Agent, another Neon release. Fantastic film from one of my favorite directors. He had two of his last movies that he made were in my top 10 of the year. His documentary, Pictures of Ghosts, was a terrific way to look at a local film culture in his hometown of Recife in Brazil. And his 2020 film, released right before the pandemic, Bacurau, a wonderful ode to those John Carpenter genre films. It was a fantastic way to catch up with it. And then the third film that I caught up at the New York Film Festival last week is, I don't know if we can call it the biggest anti-audience movie of the year. That's underselling it. We are talking about Serrat, which won the Grand Jury Award at the Cannes Film Festival. Chad, Rebecca, I have to tell you guys, I've never sat through a movie where every second while I was watching it in the theater, I hated it more and more. I was completely not on its side. And the second I walked out of the Walter Reed Theater in Lincoln Center, I realized I loved it. That's the type of movie that Serrat is. Audiences are going to step in, have a very bad time, and walk out realizing they watched something great. I don't know how else to describe it. No spoilers here. If you even reveal a little bit of the movie outside of its high concept, which is a father and son go looking for their missing daughter and sister in the Moroccan desert during a rave, and then follow some ravers to try to see if they can find it. That's where the movie sets off. It goes in directions you don't want it to. It goes off in directions you are rooting against. And you walk out with an experience that you've never had at a movie theater before. Don't watch this in streaming. It's a waste of time to watch this at home on a TV screen, on your computer screen, on your tablet. You have to watch this with an audience on the big screen, but that's still not a guarantee you're going to like it or enjoy it. Very qualified response from me, but that's the type of movie this is. Rebecca, are there any other sort of anti-audience memories that you've had at the movies over the years?
Not ones that end up well for me liking the movie. I gotta say, I'm not jealous of whoever is tasked with marketing that one.
No, and if there's a distributor that is going to tackle that, it's going to be Neon. They're very, very good at this. I think they're going to do a great job for this title, which I believe will go out on platform release around the end of November with a wider expansion, either in late 25 or early 26. And finally, a film that I think had a New York Film Festival screening, but I saw this at CineLATAM, was the new P.T. Anderson film that is coming out this week, One Battle After Another. Straight up, right here, right now, front runner for Best Picture. Front runner for every top 5, top 3 list that you find in critical ranking groups. This is among P.T. Anderson's best and most timely films. I had a great time watching it. I can't wait for you guys to see it and for us to talk this over, over a cup of coffee or a beer. That's the type of movie that One Battle After Another is. It's the type of movie you want to talk about the second you get out of that auditorium.
Well, I'm excited. I have my ticket for a 7D IMAX screening next Monday, a week from today. So
it's a
I
treat.
Can't wait.
Did you get to catch anything over the weekend, Rebecca?
I just caught up with The Monkey, but not in theaters. Unfortunately,
did we all forget about that movie? That was really hyped up in this year of horror to open the year.
Yeah.
I guess box office wise, it didn't do much, but we haven't been talking about it. I've been meaning to catch it. What was your response to it?
It's good. It's coming on the heels of Long Legs. It's not like that sort of movie at all. I think
it's not Long Legs. That's the one thing you can say against it, right? Yeah.
But it's not bad. It's fun. It's goofy. It's bloody. It's a light, fun, good time at the movies. But no, it would have been really good in a theater. Some of those kills, like a Final Destination type. Like it is. It's an art house Final Destination in a way.
Yeah, that's all we need. That's good. That sounds like that's a great marketing plug. Some corrections here to go over from last week's episode where I mistakenly said that the Fox divisions would combine to a total of 6 theatrical wide releases in 2025. My apologies for that mistake. The actual number is 7. So the point still stands. 75% decrease in theatrical output from Fox once acquired by Disney. This comes from a larger point I was making on the podcast last weekend about the situation right now that theatrical exhibition is facing, with rumors swirling about, unconfirmed as of yet, that Paramount is preparing a bid to take over Warner Brothers Discovery, creating the second mega merger between two major studios in the last 10 years. Well, if Paramount Warner's was a problem, the new rumor that's swirling around town now is that Netflix is also preparing a bid which would turn a problem into a threat. And at this juncture, I got nothing else to say other than I like to work in this industry as an industry with voices, with players, with jobs. I don't like to play the let's become a Monopoly game, because Monopoly's only fun at home, not in working life.
Yeah, I have nothing to say that does not end in me getting fired, so I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I think we can all say that, right?
Yeah.
In this industry, a number of folks, but it's a sort of situation that I think has a lot of folks a little bit nervous on the future of this industry. But there's nothing we can do other than put out the movies that are given to us and give the audiences the best possible experience that we can deliver. Talking about that, we've got news from Cinema United about $1.5 billion in investment already committed to cinemas nationwide. Rebecca, can you talk about this news item that was released by Cinema United last week?
So this is an update on a press release from, my goodness, I believe it was last year, to the effect that the major cinema players in the country, down through smaller regional chains and indeed independents as well, were going to be spending to update amenities with a goal towards increasing the quality of the moviegoer experience, providing more experience with regards to premium large format, immersive seating, things of that nature. So really what we heard last week from Cinema United was an update on that. Through the last year, $1.5 billion has been invested in the North American theater industry. And yeah, there's still more money to come. That initial commitment was for $2.2 billion. Of that, 1.5 has now been spent. So we are still looking at that continued reinvestment in the cinema industry. Like you said, as an industry, what we can do is market the films that come in and ensure that we are providing a great experience everywhere, from, a matinee to 2 p.m. screening to the fanciest, premium large format on an opening weekend situation. So we're doing our part here as an industry to give people those great experiences.
And that also happens even when the slate doesn't really live up to expectations. We're coming off of a unfortunately slow weekend here in September, with a steep sophomore frame from Demon Slayer Infinity Castle dropping 75% in week 2. The anime curse still alive as we see big opening weekends and big drop-offs in the second weekend. This, of course, compounded by the steep drop-off that The Conjuring Last Rites had, dropping 69% in its own sophomore frame in mid-September. The two biggest September releases of the year getting big drop-offs, not really carrying us through the slow weekends this month. And man, we're going to need help, because Him underwhelmed with a $13.5 million opening weekend, while Sony's Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, yikes, $3.5 million in a film that just simply did not connect with audiences.
Not a lot of people made that journey, no.
But very few people making that journey, yes.
I mean, I think to your point about the anime curse, it's just going to require a bit of a switch in perspective on the studio side. Schedule your big movies the second week of a big anime movie. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, there's no problem there at all. We've seen that. And it's disappointing, but again, we knew it was coming. We thought that maybe this one could buck the trend after that massive opening weekend. At the end of the day, Demon Slayer has already made $100 million theatrically. Conjuring Last Rites has made $150 million theatrically on a domestic level. So no, it's not the $300 million that Beetlejuice gave us in September last year, but it's $250. And just imagine what this month would have looked like at the box office if we didn't have those massive overperformances from those two titles to start the month. So not great numbers, but we can't really expect too much more from films that already overperformed. What's lacking here are the new releases to come in and make an impact. And unfortunately, This weekend, guys, we also have a trio of wide releases that aren't going to be breaking the bank. We've got Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie from Universal, expected to open in the high teens to low 20s. P.T. Anderson's One Battle After Another. Again, I think it's going to have long legs. It's going to have a great playability throughout the award season, but it is expected to open in the teens here on opening weekend. And then finally, The Strangers Chapter 2. We're hearing from Renny Harlin, director of the movie, but right now we are expecting a high single digits to low double digits opening weekend for this title on what promises to be a slightly slower than usual September weekend. Now, fortunately, coming out of September on October 3rd, we've got a surprise here in the industry. Chad, we've got a new Taylor Swift project opening up on October 3rd, but heads up, it's not a concert film. It's not a theatrical run. It's an event cinema type deal, 3 days only. Think K-pop Demon Hunters a little bit. October 3, 4, and 5 at a theater near you. What can you tell us about this new title?
Yeah, this is to celebrate Taylor Swift's 12th studio album, the launch of that. So the official title here is Taylor Swift, the official release party of a showgirl. So Friday, October 3rd through Sunday, October 5th.
The album is Life of a Showgirl, and I know that there's an in-theater exclusive music video that's going to have its debut. Program-wise, it's on the shorter side. I think it's like 80-something minutes.
89 minutes, yeah.
So, but I think there's opportunity here for theaters to, as they did with the Eras Tour, maybe get some events going if they have time to do so. It's not a ton of notice.
No, it is something new. It's not a feature, as you mentioned. I think there's a couple of tracks that you're going to be listening to for the first time with special animated lyrics on the screen, a music video. It's not a concert film. It's not a documentary. It's not pressing play on a CD with a room full of other people. It's a hybrid of all of that. Given that 3-day run, I was talking to our forecasting team over the weekend. We're going to reveal our initial forecast for this title. We are expecting a $30 to $50 million theatrical run total for this movie. Now, a caveat here, it's 3 days. You get it for 3 days. Again, think K-pop Demon Hunter that we had in August. It's not going to make your month, but it's going to fill in an important gap in the schedule. That $30 million mark right now is probably going to be where we're currently tracking this title. But with Taylor Swift, you never know until those pre-sales come in. That can grow up to $50 million, which is the current ceiling we have for the theatrical run / opening weekend, because it's really only opening weekend that we have for this special event in a theater near you. Not only AMC locations, I know a number of other major circuits actively booking this title. It's not the $93 million and change Eras Tour concert film that we had a couple years back, but it's still a very important bit of life injected into a box office weekend that wouldn't have much else really helping us out in the marketplace.
It's opening against a new Safdie Brothers movie starring Dwayne Johnson as, I believe, a UFC fighters.
Double feature. Feature.
There you
right
go.
There. Swift and Safdie. Are we creating something here? I don't want to force this into existence, but it's actually right up my alley. I'm a big Swiftie and I'm a massive Safdie Brothers fan. Even if this is just singular Safdie brother. Can't wait to see it. October 3rd, that's coming up in a couple of weeks here in the marketplace. Some release date changes here as well, Chad. From Universal, Reminders of Him, a female skewing title, changing its release date.
Reminders of Him is moving from February 6th to March 13th of next year. So just a little over a month back there.
And that's another Colleen Hoover adaptation, I believe, right?
Yes.
Like the Blake Lively movie that had all of the legal trouble surrounding it. It ends with us. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
And we do
Ends
have
with
another Colleen Hoover adaptation coming out, I think, late October.
There's Regretting You, and then there's Verity. So
those are the two. Regretting You is the one that's coming up in the coming months, and I think Verity is for 26. Yeah, Colleen Hoover, man. I mean, there's potential there theatrically, I think, with any of those books. That's always been a popular pipeline. Airport bestseller to multiplex. We need to get back to that. Also, it seemed like David Fincher was the only guy making that type of movie for a long time. Now we get a different audience, a different demo, different directors contributing to that bestseller to blockbuster pipeline. So that is coming out on March 13 of next year. And then Rebecca, men like myself that made their entire personality defending the Miami Vice theatrical movie from 2006, 2007, directed by Michael Mann. We now have to contend with a new Miami Vice from Universal coming out next year.
Not only are we going to have a new remake of Miami Vice, any of our friends in exhibition will probably love to hear that we have a new Miami Vice movie from Joseph Kosinski, who directed Top Gun Maverick and Formula One, F1, the movie earlier this summer. So the man knows from chases. I imagine I've never seen any Miami Vice in any incarnation. Like, honestly, I don't even like Heat. So Michael Mann is just not. I'm gonna just stay over here with Michael Mann.
Rebecca, the FCC chairman might cancel you after saying that. If it's not the FCC chairman, it's the Cinephilia chairman somewhere there. We might be getting an email over that statement you just made in public.
You dudes can have your Michael Mann. Though if the speedboat chases live up to some of the fighter pilot stuff in Top Gun Maverick, then you might get me involved.
It is so painfully man-child cinema to an extent, the way we defend these Michael Mann movies. But I love I can't help it. I can't help it. It's my gender.
I saw Downton Abbey just for the costumes. So I think
that's fine. You know,
there's
genders,
no problem
doing
with
titles,
that. Yeah.
They exist. I love that Michael Mann Miami Vice from like the late 2000s. But I will say, theatrical cut superior to the director's cut that is currently out on home video. So if we can get a theatrical cut in 4K of that Miami Vice, that'd be great. If we can get it before this Joseph Kosinski title in 2027, that's fine. But another combo for the ages here, Miami Vice from Kosinski is opening head-to-head against Bluey the movie from Disney. So, you know, another match made in heaven. If you want another solid double feature, Miami Vice and Bluey, why not? That basically runs the gamut from Powdered Milk to Powder Memories in the movie theater there. And now going up to our feature segment, the first of two, we've got Max Evry, our colleague, interviewing Renny Harlin on a quick interview talking about The Strangers, Chapter 2, which is coming out from Lionsgate to a theater near you. That's coming up after this quick break.
Hey, Max.
Hi, Renny. Good to meet you.
You too. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I still got a charge from that scene right in the middle of the movie. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it.
Can't talk about it. But I've got a lot of feedback. I just saw the movie for the first time myself with an audience at the premiere a couple of days ago, and it was incredible to see the audience react to that scene. I was nervous about it. I felt like it was like either going to work or not work at all. But the feedback I've gotten is that it's really working. Yeah,
no, chef's kiss. Doing multiple movies in a series all at once is a huge gamble, as I'm sure Kevin Costner could tell you. When the first of this Strangers triptych acquitted itself well at the box office, describe the sense of relief you and your partners in this must have felt.
A huge rock rolled off our chests. And because the whole thing was a gamble to do 3 movies in one go, to do a remake of a classic where, you know, our frustration was really like, we have to show first this first movie to everybody, and everybody's going to go like, oh, it's a remake of that. Like, how dare you? But we had to create that setup in order to be able to then take people deeper into these characters and this folklore and mythology. We had to do it. And we were very nervous how it was going to go, and of course the relief that it went beyond the studio's expectations, and that gave us the opportunity to really concentrate on the next ones and even do some enhancements. You know, studio said, like, you know, if we gave you a little more money, would you like to, you know, do something more? And I was like, yeah, we shot the 3 movies in 53 days. We certainly could use a little more time and a little more money, and so we did some additional shooting also for the second and the third one.
Right. And you've worked on several horror franchises, including Nightmare on Elm Street, Exorcist, and you even left Alien 3 when you no longer felt like you could put your stamp on it. What kept you connected to the Strangers franchise through this whole process, including that month of reshoots on 2 and 3?
I just felt like this was our baby, and thank you for doing your homework. Referring to Alien 3, that was one of those situations where you just have to follow your heart when you know that like the script is not there and it's not what should follow Alien and Aliens, and and it's a tough spot to leave a big studio movie. But I learned from that it's really important to follow your heart. But in this case, yeah, I love this as our baby, and we worked on it now for a long time. And studios always take their time finding the right release window and all that stuff. There's a lot of things involved. So you just gotta write it and keep that same freshness and excitement that you had when you first started the project, no matter what.
Yeah. And my last question: this second movie plays like a slasher triathlon. And Madeline Petch is so game as the heroine. Were you considering things like an actress's stamina when you're choosing someone to carry 3 very grueling movies?
I love slasher triathlon. I've never heard that before. That's beautiful. I love it. I wish that'll be a headline somewhere. Absolutely. When we were choosing the actor, first of all, like to fill the shoes of Liv Tyler was a real challenge. And we interviewed a bunch of actors. And when we met with Madeline, we really felt like very quickly that this was the person, because it just like exuded the kind of energy and intelligence and resilience that this character needs. And I talked at quite a length with her about the physical challenges that she's going to face. Because my movies, I've made some female driven movies with that are very physical, so I know, and for anybody, I know what these movies take. And I've seen actors who have a lot of other attributes but don't have the physical stamina. So we talked about it, and I became convinced that she will have it, and she did. She never complained. She was wet and cold and bruised for real, but she just kept going, and that's why we have the slasher triathlon that we do.
And that was Max Evry speaking with The Strangers Chapter 2 director Renny Harlin. The film is out from Lionsgate this weekend. And now, after this message from our sponsor, Luma 4D Emotion, we've got my interview with Rolando Rodriguez, managing partner over at Luma 4D, to recap the entirety of the events that took place in Coral Gables, Florida last week for CineLATAM in its inaugural version down in this Miami neighborhood. That is coming up after this message from our sponsor.
Luma is making another bold impact in the cinema industry with its latest innovation, Magnify 8, a one-of-a-kind experience that offers exhibitors another highly attractive and cost-effective solution besides their well-recognized and celebrated 4D emotion. Magnify 8 features multiple vibration points within the seat, seamlessly combined to feel the power of the movies moving through the body. Each vibration effect is meticulously programmed and perfectly synchronized with the action on screen. The system is highly versatile, compatible with any type of seat, regular or recliner, new or existing, enabling rapid scalable rollout across global markets. A perfect value add for premium large screens format seating, as well as all market sizes and types of theaters.
And we are back here on the Box Office Podcast, speaking on the floor of CineLATAM 2025 inaugural edition with my friend and colleague here, Rolando Rodriguez from Luma 4D Emotion. Welcome back. First time in this type of event, the first CineLATAM, the first time the entire Latin America industry has its own exhibition convention down here in Miami, Florida. What's your first impression, Rolando?
First impression, buenos dias, amigos. Here we are, Daniel. Thank you for having me. Wow, you know what? This is a fantastic start. CineLATAM was probably long overdue. It's a region that has a lot of potential with consumers that, by the way, not just affect an incredible Central and South American region that's very powerful with moviegoing, as you and I have discussed, but frankly, a lot of the consumer base in the United States. And we hope that this is the start of many to come, and hopefully with a lot more participation from the U.S. circuits, because when they come, I think they're going to be experiencing these amazing experts from Central and South America, which you and I have seen this week, that can really speak about the consumer base, how to tap them. And you think about the U.S. market being over 60 million people and Hispanic, this is a great market to tap into. So I'm very excited what I've seen so far.
I couldn't agree more with you, Rolando. You look at that opening weekend from Conjuring Last Rites, which is the top opener here in September. Top opener we've had since, I think, Fantastic Four this year. That was 38% Hispanic audiences on opening weekend. So for our U.S. colleagues in exhibition, for the vendor community servicing the U.S., the Latin American audience is also your audience. It's not another country's audience. It's your audience as well. And I think that's a critical way to start thinking of this market, because those borders blur a lot more when we talk about movie going.
No, absolutely. And look, I think that in particular, as you just mentioned, the vendor community and understanding how to tap that consumer base, not just with the products and services that you provide, but what is it that they're aspiring and looking for, right? I mean, we were very fortunate, as you know, that I represent Luma 4D Motion and Magnify 8. And we brought that experience from our South American experience in dealing with those circuits and the understanding of that consumer. But look, just like us, Dolby was here, obviously speaking to the effect that they made. Barco was here, obviously.
Great presence from our colleagues at Barco.
Great presence from Barco, just an amazing presence. And you had many of the colleagues that basically interact with all these folks in Central and South America and how to tap to that consumer base and take it to the next level. So look, a lot of potential. We really need the U.S. Exhibitors to really take a look at this, because I think this is a very exciting show with much more to come from our perspective.
Yeah, I really think so. Also, probably the most senior level show I've attended since CinemaCon and Cine Europe. We're talking about the global heads of international distribution here in person, giving some of the best studio presentations I've seen outside of Vegas. Really, a studio like Paramount, we had Mark Vian here, their head of international, talking about how CineLATAM is going to be the destination for new content after CinemaCon in terms of what Paramount is showing. And it's a great sign of support from a studio that, from what we heard this week, Paramount is really going to be ramping up its production when we're talking about theatrical films. We're thinking 15 plus theatrical films in the coming years. We need that support. And even if you don't have a LATAM business as a circuit, you're going to be able to see movies and footage from movies you wouldn't be able to see otherwise for the coming months.
Without question. And I mean, look, Mark is just an amazing supporter of the Latin American corridor and region, and he truly understands it because he actually lived there.
Yeah.
And so he truly appreciates that. And Mark Vian couldn't be a bigger supporter of this particular show and what it means. But look, you had Andrew Cripps, like you just said here, from Disney.
Global head of distribution, Disney.
Super excited about what's going on. And you had Neil, from Universal and just very. So as you just stated, we had the heads of these international film companies speaking about the importance of this particular market, the importance of this Hispanic and Latino consumer. So, oh my God, I think.
And in an approachable setting, Rolando, because I love Vegas. I know you do too. CinemaCon is great, but do you ever have more than 5 minutes for a meeting in Vegas? You say hi and you're running 5 minutes late to your next one. This is that opportunity where you get to breathe a little bit, have the conversation you don't get to have at CinemaCon, and that you may not even have time to do at a fall summit, right? Because that also has its own time constraints.
No, there's no question. Look, I give tremendous kudos to Andrew Sunshine and Erica for actually putting this show together. And frankly, the venue that they chose, because we're now here in Coral Gables, which, by the way, an amazing hotel at this Lowe's, which brings intimacy to it. And as you just stated, look, I love CinemaCon. This is one of my favorite places to go. But like you said, it's speed dating, Daniel.
Yes, exactly.
We're here. We're actually able to congregate, to have networking, to have long conversations with these very senior leaders within the industry, getting their perspective. Where's the industry going? The vendor community telling us a little bit more about the importance of this region. So, oh my God.
It's a campus-like feel, Rolando, and I think that's the best change that CineLATAM was able to do from the former Show East, where we have to admit, I think Show East got to a point 30 plus years in where it had a little bit identity crisis. Was it a Latin America show? Was it the summit before the fall summit or the summit after the fall summit, right?
Yeah.
You really didn't know what it was going for. They were able to hone in. They left South Beach, which I think South Beach is great. Everybody likes it. I always found it a distraction because I remember I'd be going into those sessions and I'd look outside the windows at the Fontainebleau or at the Lowe's in Miami Beach. I'd be like, man, I love you guys. I want to go outside. I want to go to the beach, man. It's October in Miami. I'm going to go back to New York City. But you don't have that here in Coral Gables. It's a really business casual setting where you can sit down, you can have a coffee, you can have a drink. And the focus is on the conversations and it's on the time you get to spend with a lot of senior level folks. We had the new CEO of Real D, Elizabeth Frank, who was at AMC Theaters for many years, making the trip down here, speaking with people, very approachable, very accessible. Very few other shows, conventions, this intimate with this senior level of attendees.
No, I think you were right on the mark. And look, when you look at the venue itself and the surrounding, look, this is a great area where it's at, great restaurants, great
This is my backyard, man. I'm giving you restaurant recommendations every night.
By the way, Daniel can give you all the recommendations of all the restaurants, so you guys can certainly come here and experience it because it's just a fantastic place. But look, the networking capabilities, we cannot overemphasize the fact that people here are able to sit down and have really productive conversations. More importantly, Show East of the past used to be about bringing movies. Well, guess what? Some of the movies are now coming back, but with a taste of speaking more about the Latin American audience and how to tap into that particular audience, which is extremely important as you think about, the Hispanic market in the United States.
And that's such a good change from what was Show East to what we have now at CineLATAM as well. You're right. The programming at Show East tended to be, these are the specialty films hitting your theaters. These are the award contenders, which would be great if it wasn't for Toronto, Telluride, and the New York Film Festival happening around that time. In many times, you'd already seen these movies at a film festival if you're a programming head. However, in the screenings that we've had here, we signed NDAs. We can't disclose what they were, but I will say these are films that aren't award contenders. They're audience plays in Q1. So you get to see some of the movies that you don't know too much about that are going to be hitting your screens at the end of the year and the beginning of next year. And I think that's a programming advantage for any film booker out there.
Well, and one of the things that I certainly would like to tap on is the involvement by the vendor community that actually spoke about a lot of the premium formats. I mean, you have representation here from IMAX, from Dolby, from Barco, obviously what their new product is. Look, ScreenX, which obviously is a competitor to our product at Luma 4D Motion. But you know what? People have options. That's one of the beauty about our industry. That we have options to choose from, and they get an opportunity in a setting like this to actually hear what the differences are and then make a choice, right? Make an educated choice from each one. So obviously, being from 4D Motion, I would say we're the greatest, but you know what?
A little bit of a bias.
But there's great people.
Also,
there's great people.
As we bring that up, you guys just signed a new deal here in the U.S. with your technology. Could you give us a little bit of detail on that new client we just announced?
Look, we are so excited with Joe and his team at Epic. We're finally entering the United States with our first 4D Emotion in Deltona, Florida. A great project, by the way. And Epic and his team have been just phenomenal. It's going to open up in November. But by the way, we're very excited as a company because it's the beginning of many. We are in active negotiations with many of our exhibitor partners, not only with our 4D Emotion, which we believe is a fantastic product, but also with our Magnify 8.
Which is already up and running in a couple of theaters here in the U.S. Any early results you can share from those exhibitors that have installed?
That's the beauty of it. B&B Theaters had a survey done of moviegoers that actually participate in their Magnify 8 auditorium that we converted. And by the way, the results are fantastic. Over 90% of the people are giving us a recommend to return, or they're giving recommendations to their friends to experience this. By the way, think about this. If you get a 90% rating on any movie, you got a blockbuster. So I want you guys to keep that in mind.
You didn't even have to pay Rotten Tomatoes to get that 90. That's a real 90, not a Rotten Tomatoes 90.
This is a real 90.
No, and I think that's so key because when we talk about premiums right now, there's a lot of angles to this conversation. One angle that I hear a lot that I understand is the ticket price question, right? I think there's a pricing concerns in this economy everywhere, but I wouldn't focus in terms of premium formats on the term ticket price. What I would focus on is the term price value. because that's what you're fighting for. Because if you can offer something at a price that over delivers in its value, no one's going to be asking about that ticket price when they come out of that movie theater. They're going to be coming back. And when you talk to me about a 90% rating of people that want to come back, that's a guarantee that the price value works in that equation. So if we talk about any premium format, and there's so many great premium formats out there, focus on that one question as an exhibitor. Is my moviegoer getting the value part of the equation on price value? And at that point, we have a premium format that works. It's fantastic to hear B&B has that with Magnify 8.
Look, so these are the type of discussions that we were able to have here at CineLATAM. And by the way, I got to give kudos here to my friend Daniel that moderated one of the panels. And we were able to actually have that conversation and had the opinion given by Elizabeth Frank from Real D. We had the experience from Serge from Barco sharing his perspective.
Some great HDR technology coming from them, really, and what they're doing with laser projection, very fascinating. Our friends at Barco.
No, and so those are the kind of panels that were actually in a more relaxed atmosphere. Questions were really able to answer. And again, I can't give my friend here, Daniel, enough kudos. If you're looking for a moderator out there, it's got to be Daniel.
It's my second career fighting here. Well, a big thank you to my friend and now publicist, I assume, Rolando Rodriguez, for joining us here from the floor of CineLATAM at the Lowe's in Coral Gables. The next edition of this event will announce its date soon. Please stay tuned, not only in our podcast, but our website, boxofficepro.com, for details on how you can attend and support next year's CineLATAM. Because really, when I talk about reinvention in terms of conventions, I haven't seen a night today reinvention of a show as successful and effective as this one. It's really an exciting event on the calendar.
No, and again, I would congratulate, it would be remiss to not congratulate Film Expo for actually thinking about this, and Andrew and Erica for the hard work. And the thing that you got to give them a lot of kudos on is that they went out there and asked. They had many meetings with folks like Daniel, myself, many exhibitors,
our
film
friend
companies.
Miguel Mier from Cinepolis, who was here, gave a lot of insight and to make this a reality.
Valmir Fernandez from Cinemark. I mean, you had just an incredible group that they were able to kind of tap into and get their opinions and thoughts. Mm-hmm. And boy, the outcome has been absolutely fabulous. Yeah. And I would encourage all of you, be here next year. You got to see it.
The next destination on the exhibition calendar, CineLATAM. Thank you so much for joining us, Rolando, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care, Dan.
And a big thank you to Rolando Rodriguez for joining us here on the Box Office Podcast. Earlier, you heard my colleague Max Evry interviewing Renny Harlin, director of The Strangers Chapter 2. And even earlier than that, you heard my colleagues Chad Kennerk and Rebecca Pahle joining me for the news segment of this episode. On behalf of myself, Daniel Loria, and the entire team here at Box Office Pro, thank you again for joining us, and we will talk to you again next week.